Very short recording here. There might be a bit of noise in the background. Apologies if there is. We're working our way through Macbeth's character through this mind map. Don't forget, the mind maps are key, I think, to your preparation. They make life a bit easy. We've been through the definition of a tragic hero, why he's heroic at the beginning, the hints that Shakespeare gives at the corruption that lies within him from the very, very beginning of the play. And now we want to move to one of the key elements of Macbeth's character. And that is that despite the fact that he's corrupt, it is possible to empathize with him. And that empathy is born out of the Soliloquies. Now, for me, and everybody is allowed to have an opinion, English is an opinion-based subject. The two most significant soliloquies, at the start of the play certainly, occur in Act 1, Scene 5 and Act 1, Scene 7. Sorry, that's wrong. Sorry. Act 1, Scene 7 and Act 2, Scene 1. And in Act 1, Scene 7, Macbeth delivers this incredibly thoughtful and insightful speech in which he breaks down all of the reasons why he knows he shouldn't kill the king. And in many ways, it's, I think, probably the soliloquy which a lot of people go to when they say, yeah, do you know something? He is a tragic hero because fundamentally he's a decent man, but he's caught up in this trawl, the power of this ambition that he struggles to control and he just can't control it. And is there anything more human than a person who is unable to command their instincts? For me, it's a little bit more subtle than that. But anyway, I'm just going to go through these first three quotes here and talk about them really, really quickly in terms of what they mean and what you could say about Macbeth from them. So the first three quotes are from Act 1, Scene 7. And here Macbeth is thinking about killing the king. So when he says assassination, it's a political murder. He knows that. If the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with his surcease success. Now I think that's really insightful quote. Let's break it down. Macbeth is thinking about what happens after he kills the king. And he says that if once I killed him, that was the end of things and there was no further consequences, then success. To trammel up is to like gather up. So, bundle it all up into one thing and that's the end. Wrap it up, cut it off. And what he's saying is he's thinking, if I could kill him and that was the end of it, then grand, fine. So that quote was important because it shows that he's not struggling with the idea of killing Duncan because he, has a moral objection to killing Duncan. He's struggling with the idea of killing Duncan because he knows that there will be consequences for him. He's not thinking of Duncan or his family or the country, Scotland. He's not thinking about anything like that. He's saying there will be consequences for me if I kill Duncan. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we all have to think about the results of for us personally when we act or behave in any given situation. What's really interesting is his awareness that he can't get away with it. Now, this is one of my favourite quotes from the play, and as you know, I love this play. Reflecting on what will happen to him, what the consequences are, he says, this even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poison chalice to our own lips. I mean, guys, they say the leaving cert is hard. It's not hard. Look at that quote. Think about that question they asked in 2019 about how Shakespeare's use of language, including imagery, helps us to understand characters. That's a fantastic moment in the play. Look at this image of the poison chalice. And the imagery is of Macbeth. If Macbeth makes the king drink from the poison chalice, well then something is going to take control and force him indeed to drink from it himself. The imagery is amazing. And what's going to do that? Even-handed justice. And even-handed justice is God. That's a reference to God. It's a reference to God's omnipotence, omnipotence, which means that God is all powerful and one cannot avoid punishment if one sins. So what Macbeth is essentially saying is, if I destroy Duncan, I destroy myself. I know that I can't kill Duncan and have a happy ever after. It's not possible. Now that's stated absolutely clearly there. So this guy should walk away. Logically, in his mind, he knows he should walk away, but he doesn't because of the power of his ambition. And it's that, of course, inner conflict which makes him fascinating, but also later on in the play when he complains about, the situation he finds himself in, I find it hard to feel sorry for him because he knew that he couldn't kill the king and then live happily ever after. He knew that before he committed the regicide. I, again, think this is a really, really, really important quote. He's talking about killing Duncan, and he says, his virtues will plead like angels, trumpet-tongued, against the deep damnation of his taking off. There's so much going on there. There's this lovely little simile, plead like angels. Lovely little simile. Then this very, very clever compound word, trumpet-tongued, compound word where you take two words and stick them together to make a new word. And then this phrase, deep damnation. Now that's the most important phrase in the quote. Damnation means to be sent to hell. Deep damnation means unavoidable. Do not pass go, do not collect €200, go straight to jail. If he kills Duncan, he is going to end up in hell. He knows that. And he knows that is a fact that he cannot escape. He also recognises that Duncan is a good man. So he's saying it's not as if I'm killing a bad king. I'm not killing a king who's a tyrant or a monster. This guy's good. He's so good that if I killed him, it'd be like all of heaven would cry out in horror. So he knows that there's no justification for his crime, Duncan being a bad man. And he also knows that to kill Duncan means he will inescapably end up being sent to hell. And yet he still does it. And of course, this is, if you want to be harsh, or as somebody said to me last week, have an antagonistic approach to Macbeth, which I probably do, to his character. Well, how do you feel sorry for him? He knew what he was going to do. He knew what would happen. He did it anyway. But on the other hand, of course, it's that idea of that inner conflict. He knows not to do it. He knows not to do it. And he can't stop himself. And that's so human in so many ways. And it's so easy to empathize with him there. And that, of course, is further outlined in these two quotes from Act 2, Scene 1, in the moments just before he kills the king, in this fantastic soliloquy where he has this vision of the bloody dagger, and of course the dagger represents his fate. He says, art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation proceeding from, and I love this, the heat oppressed brain. I'm from Dublin, as you know, and there's a lovely Dublin colloquial phrase which says, me head is melted. How are you getting on? Oh, me head is melted. And again, Shakespeare, he was there before any of us. Your head being melted, oh, you're stressed, oh, it's difficult to cope, isn't it? And what does he mean when he says the heat oppressed brain? He means very simply that he's in conflict, he's in distress. He knows that he shouldn't do this thing, but he's been drawn towards the crime. And I think that's why that's imagery of, this dagger. Of course, there's no real dagger, but of this dagger, this metaphorical dagger floating in front of him and him following it towards the crime. It just captures something about almost how powerless he is in thrall to his ambition. I think it's really important that we get that into our heads, guys. He is in thrall. In thrall means under the command of something, and he is in thrall to something before he commits the murder. But it's not his wife. Don't forget what I keep on saying. She doesn't make him commit the crime. She helps him. That's different. It's not the witches. They do influence him, but they're not in control of him. They can create the storm, but they can't sink the ship. Remember we talked about that in relation to the sailor's wife analogy? What's he in thrall to? The power of his ambition. And that ambition is so powerful that it melts his head, makes his brain heat oppressed, and brings him towards disaster. No doubt there's some level of sympathy or empathy there. The final quote in this box, and I'll start then this week in classes with the next one over, okay? The final quote is, I love it so much. I go and it is done. The bell invites me. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell. And the bit that I think is really significant there is the bell invites me. People go, they read things and they don't think about them. What bell? Well, it's the signal bell, isn't it? And who's rung that bell? Lady Macbeth has. So she is a proactive partner in this crime. And what I want you to know is that at the moment, the final moment when the bell rings, he actually doesn't hesitate. This idea that he reluctantly acts and kills the king, there is no doubt whatsoever that he knows what he's doing is self-destructive. There is no doubt whatsoever that he is enthralled to his ambition. There is no doubt whatsoever that then earns him some level of sympathy or empathy from the audience. In other words, lending him the status of tragic hero, a great man brought down by an inner flaw. But remember this, at the moment, the decisive moment, he does not hesitate. When that bell rings, he goes. And he goes and kills Duncan, even though he knows that Duncan does not deserve to die. So I think those are really important quotes to study from the soliloquy at the end of Act 1, Scene 7. And I think that idea of trammeling up the consequence is the key image there. And here, of course, it's the poison chalice, being forced to drink from the poison chalice. But I think that those quotes show his inner turmoil. The soliloquies show his thought process. They show the power of his ambition. But they show that power of his ambition really does negate all other considerations. So I hope you found that useful. And don't forget, if you did think the video was useful, do us a favour and give us one of those, please, because I need to know. I'm in class now. I'm in work now. I'm just about to go to class. I'm doing this. Let me know if it's worthwhile. And if you're looking for these notes and you're not in my class, don't forget pmcbrunner@icloud.com, and you can email me and we'll sort out how to get the notes. So thanks very much, and hope that was okay. Cheers.